Hello, Sean. And Rebecca, hello.
How are you?
Good.
Good evening.
I heard you needed a company to clean your furnace for you. That's cheaper, Wayne.
I am looking for someone, Rebecca.
I use Air Dynamics.
Are they local?
They're out of Pleasant Valley.
Aerodynamics.
No, Air, A-I-R, Air Dynamics.
Air Dynamics.
Yeah, Jim is the owner.
And what do they charge you for your furnace?
When I get it cleaned, anywhere between 150 and 250, depending on how much soot is in there.
Beautiful. That sounds like a winner to me.
Yeah. And they're very nice. When I had, they also service my central air for me. And not this summer, but last summer, my central air went out. And I said to him, I said, Jim, I'm sleeping with ice packs on my chest. You need to come out. He came out the very next day.
That was funny.
And all it was the capacitors. Like it needed a new battery pack. And he only charged me for that. And that was it.
Nice.
They didn't try and tell me I need a whole new, central air system.
Right. That's what, yeah. All I need is a cleaning and a nozzle, a filter.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. But they're real, they're I've been using them since I moved in here, and they've always been good to me.
All right. I will check into that. I appreciate that. George, I just can't find them.
You're on the speaker.
Yeah, look at what you need. Look at them, compare them and see.
I don't know. Well, focused. It's always something. Please. All right. Okay. Uh-oh.
I'm glad to see you made it okay, Dr. Riker, through the back roads.
Yeah, I made it. It was a long trip.
What's going on?
So he and I was speaking to him, and we were driving, and we were both going through back areas where we live, where we don't get service, and we kept losing each other. The joys of, the Poconos.
Hopefully technology in the next year or two will solve that.
I'm sure you have dead zones up by where you live too.
Basically 209 there where the canoe library is.
Yep. I have shoes that match that blanket you're leaning on there.
Really the main one.
Yep.
Wooddale is, all of our students in the Wooddale area are compromised bad.
Yep. Yeah.
Price Township.
Yeah.
What's that, Wooddale Reservoir?
Yeah, all that area is tough.
And then you go up, Price Township is there. The polling place is right up the street.
Maybe I have deleted it.
It is 4:30, and it looks like all of our committee members are present. So I'd like to call to order this evening's meeting. Are we prepared for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the
to the United States of the Republic, for which it stands,
Nation.
under God, indivisible, with one liberty and justice for all. Deborah, can we have a roll call, please?
Okay, Sharon Glasgow,
Present.
George Andrews,
Present.
Rebecca Bear,
Present.
and Wayne Roner.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Can we have a motion to adopt this agenda for October 19th with the members of the committee reserving the right to add to the agenda and take further action as the committee deems appropriate?
So moved, Rebecca.
Second.
Approval of the minutes. Motion to approve the minutes for September 21st, 2020, pages 1 through 6.
So moved, Rebecca.
Second, George.
Included in the packet for your review is the PSBA Policy News Network newsletter volume 6/20. This issue of the Policy News Network addresses policies related to special education updates based on a cyclical compliance monitoring, sudden cardiac arrest, and electrodiagram testing. The list of federally required annual notices and policy related to notification and information related to Suicide Prevention Month and the statewide Suicide Prevention Plan. Tonight for discussion, the first policy up for discussion is policy 113, discipline of student with disabilities.
I got a question, Cheryl.
Sure.
The Policy News Network brochure or section, it has a whole section on policies requiring or recommending annual notice. Do we go out to the parents and say, please or go on the website and say, please be sure to read these policies, or how do we do that?
In terms of policy dissemination?
I know we probably don't know at that point. That's why I'm asking Deb or Dr. Wecker how that works, or Steve, if somebody in the administration just, how do we let the people, because it says you have to let the parents and all know, staff, parents, guardians, of all the policy notification. I just didn't know how we did it. That's what I'm asking.
So correspondence from the district comes out to all parents regarding how to access policies for the district, and they're available on the website. Are you asking, is there any other direct communication that goes out?
Yeah. Is there a note that goes out on the website at some point in time saying, hey, you got to check these policies out because we're supposed to give an annual notice. Am I correct? Or maybe I'm reading it wrong. I'm just because the PSBA says policy notice requirements. Here's a list of PSBA guidelines and the list like all the policies.
George, I'll speak to that. Some of that goes out through the Code of Student Conduct. Some of it goes out in the beginning of the year in all the paperwork that families receive from the school district. And then some of it is part of the parent sign off on the parent portal or the student portal in our Sapphire program.
Okay, but I was just curious because I just.
Good question.
There's also a section on the website too that has annual notices listed there.
And that's what I'm familiar with.
Right.
Okay, I just say, it was for my information, because I just don't remember seeing it done, so, thank you, I do appreciate you. Now you got me take care, we can start with the policy.
So I have a question in regards to the policy you're reviewing now, 113.1. How do we determine, or what do we use to determine whether the infraction or that's leading to expulsion is related to the disability? Like what do we use to coach
Have in place.
prior to we get to that point?
Rebecca, there's a process that they go through called a manifestation determination.
Correct.
And that's where a committee, the administration, the student, the parent actually review the incident, go through a series of questions to determine if the infraction is linked to the individual student's disability or not.
Okay. And usually when
Dr.
they get
Riker, I don't see that in the policy though.
Yeah, it's on page 2 of 5. Manifestation determination.
yeah, I see that.
I see it. Okay.
And that's what I was asking in regards to. So do we look at behaviors that led up to the expulsion as well? And what we did to stop the behavior before we got to this point in the manifestation hearing, so we can see if we did what we needed to do as a district in order to prevent expulsion? Because usually with a child with a disability, we know that there's issues and they have to be coached differently to the behavior. So did we do the right coaching and action plans prior to getting to this point? Like, how do we know if we did our job as a district?
Yeah, so we would go through, I mean, they track disciplinary infractions, and they're gonna follow that to see if there are any patterns of behavior that would require an intervention or a change to a student's program. However, I would just emphasize that if a student with a disability were to commit an expellable type of infraction, our first priority is going to be, where do we place them to get the proper resources needed to assist them and still provide them the best education. Expulsion doesn't stop education, it simply has that take place in a different setting. So that student would be placed accordingly to a place where the team, when they make that decision, feels that student may still be successful and address any disability that may have been involved or may have led to a student making that decision. But again, if it's a manifestation and it's determined that an infraction is a manifestation of a student's disability, there is no discipline. Discipline ends, it can't occur. And
Okay.
so then it goes to programs, resources, supports. What can we do to continue to support the student?
So if the student wasn't identified with the disability prior to the infraction, but after having this manifestation meeting, it is determined that he or she may have a disability, will then action be taken to help the student
Yes.
and not be disciplined?
Yeah, because then the child is thought to be exceptional. And the student would then go through the evaluation process to determine if there is a disability that may have been a cause or a manifestation of that student's decision making. So any type of discipline is on hold until that has been resolved.
And now the parents have to agree to that evaluation in order for
That's
this
correct.
to happen. And if
That's
they say
correct.
no, then the expulsion, whatever it is, would happen because the parents didn't agree.
Well, the proceedings would occur under circumstances with the student not having been identified with a disability. That's
Okay.
correct.
Dr. Riker, I too have a question. And I recognize that we are focused on the policy that's in front of us regarding students with disabilities. But is the process the same for just behavioral issues with the student in terms of manifestation, and we provide resources to just help them throughout that IEP process or whatever it could be?
That's a great question, and I don't know that I have the right answer for you, Sharon. But it would be in the sense that we would always look at the student's disability. It doesn't, as the policy says, a student with a disability
Right.
may still receive consequences for behaviors that they may display. Typically, what happens though, and by law, there's a limit to the number of suspensions, whether that's in school or out of school suspensions, that an identified student would receive before the team would have to reconvene, the IEP team, and look at the supports and programs that are in place to help that student, because the decision would be that those supports are not being helpful and that student making better choices. So it may be that a different placement needs to occur because the student needs additional supports. The answer is yes and no. Can a student with a disability still receive consequences? Yes. However, there is a mechanism there that if they have received a certain number of consequences, the district is obligated to go back and look at that student and see what we can do to further support them.
But does the student have to have the disability before he starts having the discipline, or do we bring students that are disciplined and then look at the disability? Because I was confused there on the one answer that we look at the disabilities.
You always start with the behavior first.
Right.
So
Okay.
if a student commits an infraction, then you look at whether or not the student has a disability,
I
and
think
then
that's
you
important.
determine whether the disability may have been a cause for the behavior. But it doesn't eliminate the ability to provide consequences as per the code of conduct to students with disabilities. But the number of behavioral issues or disciplinary infractions does cause the district to relook at what programs and what supports that student is currently receiving, and whether or not they need to, that has to be changed, which would then be reflected in the student's IEP.
I think that's so important. Thank you for clarifying that, because I guess what I was looking to hear is that the behavior prompts everything,
Correct. That's what I was
which
asking
could lead
too,
to, thank you, I understood.
If the student doesn't have an IEP or anything when he has a discipline, we
But
evaluate.
it could be identified after the fact is what I was
Right.
asking.
We
Which it can
evaluate.
Yeah, if a student, I think your question, George, may be if there's a pattern of behavior
Yeah.
that a student has displayed over time, the district would look at that as part of a child find to determine whether or not they would offer, in many cases, in most cases, they would offer an evaluation. And that gets to Rebecca's point where the parent would have to agree to that evaluation and for the district to move forward.
Okay.
But so we would look for those patterns of behavior that may send us a signal that there's something going on here that we may have to look a little more in depth at how we can support this student moving forward.
Okay, yeah. I know we got off the beaten track and that the basic.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions about the changes and updates relative to policy number 113.1? Hearing none, we'll move on to policy 113.2, programs.
Just looks like we've changed a little bit of wording, not much in the policy, so.
Can you go over what a positive behavior plan is or support plan is? Like, how does that work?
So the district has initiated positive behavior supports. Looking at I'm not probably the best person to speak to this. I'll probably ask Brian Battig to jump in on this. He may be able to answer it better. But obviously, it's looking at ways for students to be rewarded for positive behaviors in order to try to limit or mitigate any negative behaviors, recognizing when students are doing good things and giving students opportunities to not only make good choices, but to be recognized for the good choices that they're making in school.
Okay.
That's so good to know that there could be a turnaround.
Right.
So we're trying to increase students to time on task, homework completion, things like that, interactions socially with peers, with staff. So, school-wide positive is one thing that we use in all of our buildings, but behavioral support plans are more individualized. It kind of coincides with the student's IEP. Students who are in our artistic support classes, life skill classes, and especially any student that is identified as emotional support, they're required to have a behavioral plan in place for them. And so they have goals and objectives just like an IEP does. Okay. And so it's therapeutic in mind, and it has a tracking system, and it does involve the student, the family, the staff, anyone who has interaction with the student to help to get the student to work independently on their own and to monitor their own behavior. That's the ultimate goal of a behavioral plan.
And they use that in ESASD now too, since some of them are.
Yes, we have some students that are in ESASD that have behavioral plans. So we have some students that are in the virtual world, that are in hybrid, that do have a behavioral plan that we are using. So, and some are doing very well with that.
Any other questions, comments regarding policy 113.2?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the de-escalation techniques we're using. I know last year we approved someone to go for breathing techniques. Is that one of the things that they would be using to de-escalate, or like?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different de-escalations. So they range from very mild de-escalation to talk down to last resort. We are trained in a TAC 2, which is the last resort. Again, it's a physical de-escalation, which we certify our staff. We have trainers. Actually, Mr. Zoll, who is here part of our meeting, he's a certified trainer, and so is Dr. Vituli. They are both certified trainers in a TAC 2, which also does now include in that program trauma informed. So it's a physical program where sometimes we may have to physically support a student.
Right.
So that's from one extreme to the other. So it does begin with verbal de-escalation and goes right to one extreme to the other, where we may have to physically de-escalate a student to protect them from harming themselves and protect them from harming anyone else.
And when they're de-escalated, they're never alone, right? If you're de-escalating a student and having to be physical, you're not going to be alone with that student in the room, or would you be?
No, you would not. Now, and our philosophy, Rebecca, over the course of the last 3 years has changed, and we are now implementing programming where we have calm down rooms. We are getting away from what we call the timeout room. The timeout room has been around for a long, long time, and we're getting away from using that. And a calm down room is now where we have students going into a room where they can actually sit down, and it's more therapeutic. The room is very similar to what we instituted about 2 years ago with the sensory rooms, but this is a room where now it's not a sensory room, but it's a room that has beanbag chairs. It may have a couch in there and some other items that a student can go in and kind of talk down. So we're getting away from doing physical restraints and we're doing more of the therapeutic. We now employ, we have 3 mental health workers that work with us at the elementary now. And this year, we just put a mental health worker that is working at.
Whoops, we lost you. We lost Mr. Baddick.
How do I join in if I have a question?
Are you, when it's, we'll have a moment later on when
The
it's,
public.
public participation.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry,
You're
I'm new to
welcome.
the board meetings, but I have 2 children in the school district, so I do have a couple questions.
High school.
that I
But it's,
wanted to
you will
address.
ask a public, yeah, public participation, hon.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions or comments regarding policy 113.2 programs? Moving on to policy number 122. And these are programs regarding extracurricular activities. Seems like wordsmithing.
Yeah. Concussion training changed a little bit. That's about it.
This also adds the cardiac arrest requirements there too,
Mhm.
correct, Deborah? That was what we had added?
Yes.
Yes.
That seems to be more what it's geared to.
Any thoughts or further discussion? Programs in relation to extracurricular activities. I am moving on to policy number 123, programs, interscholastic athletics.
It looks like it's the rewording based on what the SBA said.
Right, but it looks like we removed cyber charter schools may participate in the school district, so they can't anymore. Is that correct? Or they can?
They can.
They
What we
can.
did here, Rebecca, is we cleaned up the location as to where that's addressed. Those particular nuances are addressed in their respective policies, such as cyber education, also home education, because here this just speaks to our overall program of interscholastic athletics. The permissions to participate are intact. In fact, they're assured by law, but they're reflected in their respective policies, and they have been.
Okay. I just saw it crossed out, so I was just wondering.
But the cyber and homeschool kids can still participate in.
Yes.
In
They
the
do.
scholastics.
They do, yes.
That is correct.
Is there any specialties or any nuances to those policies that we've changed?
Nothing has changed in the other policies. The language that was in this policy previously was already reflected there.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no further questions for policy 123, moving on to policy 123.2, title programs, sudden cardiac arrest.
Do we have EEG machines at our schools?
Rebecca, can you repeat your
I
question?
said, do we have those EEG machines at the schools or at our locations or portable ones?
We
Are you
do.
referring
We
to-
threw out the, yeah, they have it by
You're
law.
referring, I believe, to
Just the wrong acronym.
Yeah.
AEDs.
AED, there you go.
EEG.
Yeah.
Yeah, EEG, I believe, would be a
I knew
brain
what you
scan,
meant, though.
right?
No, echo, it's a chest, yeah, breathing, but yeah.
Gotcha.
So we do have the AEDs.
We do.
We have them, yes.
Yes, we have over 33 throughout the district.
And we check our batteries regularly, right?
Batteries and our pads are checked throughout the year and they're replaced as needed. We keep a running list of when they're expiring and we get them prior to that.
Perfect.
Is
And we
that
do train,
information kept near the equipment, or is it in a separate office in terms of maintenance and the
So like if we're in the
checking of
gym,
those?
is there one in the gym during events or near the like concession
They're
stand?
right out. They're right outside the gym areas and the main lobbies of all the buildings, pretty much.
Okay.
And the
how it
trainers
is in
also
higher
have
ed,
them
too.
out on the field. The actual athletic trainer has them out on the field with the students too at that time.
Any other questions or comments? 123.2, sudden cardiac arrest. Moving on to policy number 105, curriculum.
This one is for review, I guess, because George wanted to review this, correct?
I thought this one we actually, didn't we address it in the education?
Correct.
This
We
past-
did. We talked about that extra or additional technologies or the ability to infuse different ideas that teachers had.
Mhm.
The main thing that we were talking about, the education, because we haven't changed anything on this, it was just.
No, we have not.
It was just that we wanted to make sure that it's the board that is the ones that actually approve the curriculum. It's the administration that brings it to us for approval, but we actually do the approval. And I think that's what we were discussing last.
And I think we were also discussing, George, that we stayed on top of it, where sometimes we have not stayed on top of the timeline of reviewing it as should be. That's why we're behind on certain classes now.
That's correct, yeah, and we also have a couple of board members on the education committee, which helps it also. So, but there wasn't actually any changes to the policy itself.
Correct.
It was just getting an understanding.
Yes.
At this time, we're calling for public participation. So if there are any questions or comments from the public, now would be the proper time to speak.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Nina Dick. I do have a question regarding if there's any type of reopening plan or making it available for my one daughter is first grade. My son is 8th grade. He is life skills. He gets 5 days. My daughter gets only 2 days a week. Her days are Monday and Tuesday, which I'm sure we all know those are days where most of our holidays are. So she misses 14 days of the regular school year without missing other days. I feel like her education is really kind of on the balance compared to my friend's son who goes 5 days a week in Dingman's Ferry. So I have a serious concern for my daughter's education. I'm wondering if there's any type of plan during this school year to reopen anymore, because quite frankly, I'm not a teacher and I have a 2-year-old at home. So my Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays are very rough and I cannot do what her teacher can. So I'm just, I'm just trying to find some answers. This is the first meeting that I've attended. So thank you very much for listening to me, and, any peace of mind would be greatly appreciated.
Dr. Rector, do you want to address the Monday, the holiday always on Mondays that we're talking about?
I can. The board last month did ask that the administration look at moving one of our days off on a Monday, Tuesday to later in the week. That actual adjustment has been made and is on the board agenda for this evening for the calendar. So while that's not significant, it is the direction that the board had provided. At this time, I'm not aware of the board engaging in any further discussions under our current conditions with respect to a full return to school. That is a discussion that we're working on administratively. in how we would be able to accomplish that if and when that would occur during this school year. My understanding of that, though, and my thoughts on that is that that may not occur before we move into the second semester, which is closer to the end of January. So I'll let the
Now-
board members speak to that if they wish, as they would be the ones making that decision.
Well, now, quite frankly, with that in mind, I apologize. I don't mean to interrupt. But my home situation is complicated, and I cannot work because of my home situation. Neither can my husband. So right now, the only reason I can't work is because of so many kids home and homeschooling. It's also has raised my internet bill because over here, Blue Ridge does not give you unlimited internet. So once you reach that peak, you get charged a ridiculous amount. So is there any kind of plan to, help the families out that have to homeschool their kids 3 days a week that are paying more for internet?
It's my understanding, this is that you can opt to send your children 4 days if that burden is there, the financial burden. Am I not correct, Dr. Riker?
You are correct. And I was just going to say that. So
My daughter is first grade. She
Yeah.
cannot
Can go
go
4
the
days.
other 2 days to
Yes,
work
she can.
independently. I was told that it's not appropriate for her age group because she cannot just sit and independently work all day, and there's no teacher that is really gonna, teach her during that time or push her to focus. She's first grade. She's missed, half of kindergarten because of this, awful pandemic. And now she's missing so much of first grade. And it's just that I was kind of geared towards don't put her Thursday and Friday also because she can't work totally independently. And, quite frankly, at home, she can't work independently either because she has a sister who's 2 and she's, it's hard to focus. So, am I still able to push even if the principal is telling me, well, it's not appropriate for my daughter with her age level? Can I still put her Thursday and Friday?
Which school is your daughter in? First
Bush
grade?
Hill Elementary. And I'm not the only parent who was told that. And the principal is great, but I do believe where he's coming from, that my daughter may not be the best candidate for that.
Right.
And
I don't know how it works. I know I have friends who have children in kindergarten and first grade at other schools who do go 4 days a week. For the same reason, well, because both their parents work. But
Okay.
I don't know how they do it there. I couldn't tell you just because my kids are older. Mine are in 8th grade and 11th grade. So
Yes, and I have 8th grade special needs. He gets 5 days. I'm thankful for that. He needs it. But my daughter, who is first grade, needs it. But because she's not special needs, she gets the 2 days, and then she hasn't been in school for 2 weeks now. So now we just kind of deal with the catching up, where she's missed what other kids have not had to miss. I'm not a teacher, and really I'm concerned for her, education and, the supplementing, because I was told that Thursday and Friday is not a good fit for her. And I value their opinion, and I don't want to send her if she's not going to be able to get the work done just so that I can go to work, because my daughter's education, quite frankly, means more to me than me going to work.
If I could speak, if you don't mind, I'm Dr. Batuli, the assistant superintendent, and I would encourage you to contact the principal again, because I do believe it is appropriate to have your children in there. There are other first graders, there are other kindergartners, they're all there. And there are, while there may not be teachers in there all the time, there are paraprofessionals and there are teachers as well, but they share the supervision of those classrooms. And they can get help with from those teachers at that time. So
there are other I apologize. So there are other resources like that are in there's more than one person just watching a bunch of kids, because that's kind of how it was portrayed to me, as well as other parents that are choosing not to send their kids to school. There, you know, a lot of parents that I've spoke to are really concerned about sending their kids to school, and I'm trying to tell them, you know, no, it's not. You know, the school is on top of things, and you know, they know what they're doing. You know, I just want to know that, you know, what if my daughter was to go Thursday and Friday and is in that classroom, that there's not just one person, you know, standing there like, get to work, because that's kind of how it was portrayed to me, as well as other parents who are, you know, also rethinking this idea of, you know, sending their kids to help benefit their family.
Well, it's my understanding that we're making those rooms, splitting them up as they get big so we can continue to serve them. So I would be disappointed if that were the case. I will personally look into it, but again, I would encourage you, you can certainly try it too. If it turns out this doesn't benefit your child, you can switch back again. But please, I think it's worth a try.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Dr. Vituli, is it, and just asking a question, can you also reach out to the principal at her daughter's school? Just because this sounds to be an isolated case, just to see how we could accommodate if possible.
Absolutely, I intend to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? If there are no comments, our advisory recommendation, motion to authorize and direct the administration to post the following items as discussed, A, B, C, D, E, with noted revisions for public review during the month of October and subsequent board action in November.
Motion by Rebecca to do that.
Second, George.
This meeting is adjourned.
I motion to adjourn first before you do that.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Okay.
Second.
Perfect.
Thank you. Our next meeting will be November 16th, 2020 at 4:30 p.m.
See you later.
Thank you all.
We'll see you on the
Thank
other
you.
side.
And the flip side.
Yep.
This.